the BJP seems to be clearly the front runner. They are the party which all of the election surveys say is likely to form the next government. Yet they haven't presented, in my view anyway, a cogent economic vision. So what they have done is they have pointed to their last time they were in government in 1999, 2004, and they pointed to Narendra Modi and Gujarat and basically said, look, trust us. We'll be good stewards of the economy without spelling out a vision. Now, it's true that the first NDA government were sort of the halcyon years for economic reform. There was privatization of public sector undertakings. There was opening up to FDI. There were a lot of reforms which were taken up, and the BJP is sort of assuring us that, well, it would sort of maybe begin where it left off. Now, I think what should give us a little bit of pause is that for 10 years that the BJP has been in opposition, it has fought stridently against economic reform, right? So it's resisted moves to increase foreign direct investment in certain sectors. It has not been for a more transparent allocation of natural resources. It has pushed for greater subsidies, sometimes saying the Congress Party subsidies of the UPA government haven't gone far enough. So I think there is a question that some people might have, which is, are we going to get a reformist BJP or a retrograde BJP? And I think it's been easy for the BJP to rely on this excuse of, well, we've been in opposition, and so, of course, we're going to oppose whatever the government puts forward. But I think in many states in India, it has been in power, and even in those states, it's engaged in a pretty healthy dose of populism. So this idea of trust us, I think, requires us to take a leap of faith. If we keep going to the next slide, we have the Congress Party, who I think if I had to put their slogan on a bumper sticker, it would be something along the lines of kind of incredulous, who us? They sort of reject any kind of blame for the economic downturn. They always respond by saying it was the Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh, who was the architect of the 1991 reforms, and we are the victim in many ways of the global external environment, which has been very volatile. Many other emerging markets have been hit. Of course, what they don't seem to mention is their own scandals, the massive corruption, the misgovernance which has led to the pullback in growth, the own goals, its self-inflicted wounds in a way in terms of policy missteps on taxation, on investment, on lots of issues, and frankly, ineffectual leadership at the very top. And it has only moved in a more market-friendly direction when its back has been against the wall. And so a party that has been unwilling to sort of admit many of its own past failings, I think, raises the specter of repeating the mistakes of the past.
So when you look at Modi and you sort of think of the Modi model, and here I'm distinguishing between Modi and the BJP, because a lot of this opposition that we've seen, I mean, the BJP in economic terms it's schizophrenic. It has a split personality. My friend Swapan Das Gupta puts it very well. He calls it, traditionally part of the BJP has really been, their economic policy has been Marxism plus cow. So that's really, the RSS, the BJP trade union, there's a sort of deep mistrust of markets that is at the core of the movement. But the Modi government really is very, very far from that. I don't know how many of you watched his speech at the Sri Ram College of Commerce last year in Delhi. And it's quite a remarkable speech, and I would it's on YouTube, and if you haven't watched it, I would urge you to go back and watch it again. And I think that speech, probably more than any other, he really laid out his economic ideas and why he stands apart from other Indian politicians in terms of his economic messaging. So he spoke there about minimum government, maximum governance. He spoke about government having no business being in business. He compared India to the high-growth East Asian economies, Korea, Taiwan, Japan. He spoke about making consumers pay for electricity. Now, this may seem sort of commonplace over here, but in Indian politics, it's quite a big deal to make your consumers actually pay for electricity. For a politician to say, I'm not going to give it to you free, but I'm going to make you pay for it, but give you reliable power, which is what he put in place in Gujarat. You have infrastructure where Gujarat has among the best infrastructure in India. He's really focused on that. And you have the fact that unlike many chief ministers, he has not been apologetic about being seen as close to business. So in terms of messaging, what we're seeing is for the first time since Chandrababu Naidu, who was in Andhra Pradesh and who lost the election in 2004, for the first time what we're seeing is a chief minister who is electorally very powerful. He's won 3 back-to-back elections and has managed to be electorally successful without running away from a public association with business.